If a nuclear missile strike on Iran is to happen right now, the president would already received threat assessments and briefing on the best course of action to take. The president doesn't personally type out a launch code or flip a switch. In fact, he doesn't interact with any physical weapon systems. All he is given is a menu of attack options, briefed by the most competent nuclear weapon advisor who understands the nuclear strategy and weapon systems. In a way, if you think about it, the actual strategic strike packages are already made up by these war planners. They tweak them, they adjust, they swap warhead types in the field for different missiles, for whatever they allocated them to do, which is why you always see nuclear convoys in the field. And they do this to prepare for the worst day to come. So now, for the president, he must listen to the recommendations from the generals. And within that short decision time window, the president is given only just a few choices to avoid decision fatigue. And the general just needs to get a go order from the president to unleash hell. As far as the launch code that everyone says the president has, well, that is just an authenticator code that gets encoded into an emergency action messages. People call it the biscuit. And every order has a different code the president has to send out, including an order to stop any nuclear strike. So it's not just one code. The order will be sent through the National Military Command Center and through a series of survivable communication systems that can keep the chain of command functional even if fixed ground facilities get destroyed. But how does the president receive all the information that he needs before issuing a launch order? And this is where the statutory chain of command runs through the Secretary of Defense first. The SecDef provides civilian oversight in the nuclear decision process, ensuring that military commanders are acting on properly authorized civilian direction rather than making independent escalation decisions. In practical terms, the SecDef is a part of the legal chain through which execution orders flow. This two-person civilian authority structure at the top of the chain, and it's one of the primary safeguards against any single individual being able to initiate nuclear use on their own. And it mirrors the same two-person concept that gets replicated all the way down to the crew level underground. Once the green light is received, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff transmits execution orders from the president to the combatant commanders at the U.S. Strategic Command in Nebraska. At this level, this is very critical because only they have the unlock code for each of the missiles and no one else has them. So, STRATCOM's job is to maintain operational command and control of global strategic forces. For example, monitoring readiness, planning targets, tracking threats, and managing the execution of any directed nuclear operations. So once the order is received, STRATCOM will be working alongside with the National Military Command Center to generate these emergency action messages and encode these unlock codes to the crew or naval nuclear submarines. So in the case of ICBMs, without these codes sent by STRATCOM, literally nothing can be enabled. And all nuclear-capable forces will receive the same messages. So the Navy, Air Force, and other branches all have situational awareness on what is going on. Operators are trained to copy, validate, and authenticate these messages, and also learn to prioritize which to act on first. As old as they sound, these nuclear execution orders, at least with the current Minuteman III system, are either sent through phone lines, low-frequency radio, or extremely high-frequency satellite signals, and each system is a redundant backup. So during the entire launch process, the direct link goes from the President to the National Military Command Center, STRATCOM, all the way to the Launch Control Centers, and all other operational chain of commands are on the sideline just watching. And one of them is Global Strike Command in Barksdale, Louisiana. On day-to-day operations, GSC does a lot of work being the support role to make sure the forces are trained, issue training material, and pretty much everything for the doomsday. And when that doomsday comes, all they can say is, good luck and hope we did a good job preparing. And the second one on the sideline is the 20th Air Force in Cheyenne, Wyoming. They oversee the 3 Minuteman III bases and sit between Global Strike Command and the wing level in the operational chain, including security and maintenance. Basically, its job is to physically get these operational missiles ready across hundreds of missile silos spread across Montana, North Dakota, Wyoming, Colorado, and Nebraska. It's basically the middle management that listens to Washington. Communication systems running through the 20th Air Force structure provide the direct contact link between national leadership and individual launch crews, meaning when an execution order flows down through Strategic Command and Global Strike Command, 20th Air Force is the layer ensuring the wings receive it and can execute. 20th Air Force also owns the standardization and evaluation functions that keep launch crews certified to the standard. But in an emergency war order situation, only the underground crews are the ones that can make things happen, and there will be no annoying phone calls or any messages from these organizations telling the crew what to do that has nothing to do with turning keys. And they are the 90th, 91st, and 341st Missile Wings. And each one is commanded by a full bird colonel who is responsible for everything that happens within that wing's area of operations. The 90th spreads across Wyoming, Colorado, and Nebraska. The 91st is in North Dakota, and the 341st is in Montana. Each of these wings have different target sets and functions, and war planners change them all the time. Now, here comes the fun part. Once the actual execution order is received by the crews, these crews will validate and authenticate this message 100% to ensure it's actually from the United States President. And no, the President won't be calling saying it's him. Even if so, there is no way to verify just by listening to someone's voice on the phone. Well, they do that by checking a top secret code. To simplify this, missiles are already programmed based on the pre-planned attack options the President has selected, so the crew doesn't have to think. They will follow the instructions and turn keys on time. You might have seen a bunch of YouTube videos showing crews opening up the lock container with 2 individual locks. And that's what they call the positive control material, aka a highly classified authenticator to ensure it's from the President. And they use it to match the part in the emergency action message. If anything was out of order or fails to match, then no execution will be done. Remember earlier we talked about the launch code that the President sent out? That's the code in the message the crews have to decode and match. And there is a whole stack of them. Once his code is authenticated, it can't be used again, and they move on to the next, if a second or third execution order comes in. Each Leadership Launch Command Center's job, then, is to ensure the synchronization of the execution process, and they will have direct contact with the STRATCOM for any launch reports to track the inventory of remaining weapons. If any termination message is received, the crew also has to read it carefully on what it wants to stop and immediately stop. In the worst case scenario, if all underground control centers are destroyed, and only at the highest DEFCON and dire scenario, the Airborne Launch Control System, operated out of Offutt in Nebraska, can provide an airborne backup command and control to take over launch authority if ground-based crews are no longer able to perform their mission. And if you want to learn about that, watch this video next.